speeches. They're putting our position statements with our letterhead that also has that banner across the top, Atheists, Humanists, Freethinkers, into the congressional record. Members are asking that that be done, so we're in there. A lot of things have changed in only being on the Hill for 3 years, and they're all very positive. The first out non-theistic member of Congress, Pete Stark, allowed the Secular Coalition for America to announce this identity. Specifically, he identifies as a Unitarian who does not believe in a deity. No civil rights struggle has ever been won when a minority stands alone. Men had to vote to give women the vote. Numerous young black men had been murdered before the death of white freedom riders drew national attention to the fight for racial equality and voting rights. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender Americans rely on allies and the other 90% of the population as they work towards advances towards equality. I've been an ally in other minority struggles, and I applaud Secular Coalition's theistic allies who are willing to stand up for the approximately 10 to 16% of Americans who fall into some category of non-theism. So I am extremely proud to tell you that the Secular Coalition for America last year became the first non-theistic member of the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, the nation's premier civil rights organization. For the civil rights community, and that group, by the way, includes many religious groups, to recognize non-theists as both allies in other struggles for acceptance and also as a minority whose own rights need to be protected in an increasingly theocratic political climate is tremendous. I am so fortunate to be working in a field in which I get to live my humanist and atheist values every day. I have the opportunity to stand up not only for us thick-skinned civilian adults, but also for the children who are being harassed and ostracized for not identifying with theism, for our men and women in the military whose freedom of conscience and religious liberty is being quashed, for taxpayers who are currently required to subsidize others' religious activities, and I'm also very proud to work side by side with theistic allies. For Bailey Fry in Kansas, for the elderly gentleman in Tennessee, for the millions of fellow non-theists throughout the country, I'm proud to be one of their voices. We now have 2 registered lobbyists on the payroll in Congress. I hope you feel the same pride and support the efforts of the Secular Coalition. Thank you. We have time for Q&A.
I guess we want to do questions.
You know how to turn that on, right? It's a little tiny button at the very bottom, over the top. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I guess people can come down or move the mic over to them.
So do you want me, can I move?
Yeah. Thank you. 2 quick questions. What plans has the Secular Coalition made for each administration? We got an election coming up. I assume the strategies will be different. And then the second question is on the Pledge of Allegiance. It seems like that case the Supreme Court punted on, the standing issue.
Yeah.
Are you guys actively lobbying to move a bill through Congress, or are you looking more at a court strategy to try and fix that?
Okay, if I forget the second question, remind me. But okay, let me start with the first one, which was
The different administration.
Oh, right. Actually, our strategy is the same whoever gets elected. We are on a letter with 40 national organizations that went to both major party candidates. By the way, our election resource only covers the major party candidates, and by 2012, I hope we have the capacity to cover Libertarian, Independent, Green, actually every candidate on the ballot. So I know we've been hearing from people who say, why are you only covering the 2 that get all the coverage anyway, and its capacity. Just with 3 people on staff full-time, we weren't able to. However, we do present questions you can ask of every single candidate about our secular values. So it's the same strategy. Whoever gets in, both have said they want to continue faith-based funding. So we're going to work with these 40 other national organizations. We're going to go in and say, look, there are these problems. If you've already made a campaign promise to continue the office, but can we at least not do it the way Bush did, where you're throwing money at religious groups instead of groups that are doing a good job just because they're a religion, and then not even having them follow the Constitution. And then on the military proposal, our letter that we're going to present at our press conference, all we do is fill in the name Obama or McCain, or if there's a surprise, some third person, which I don't expect, but you know, who knows. And the rest of the letter remains the same. We've been working with a JAG lawyer and military attorney to come up with our procedure that we think the next president can use to deal with these problems that have not gone away since 2005, despite everything we've tried in Congress. So we do have a proposal for the next president, whoever that might be. And just like the current administration, we'll just plug away no matter who's in. So yeah, same strategy either way. Just keep fighting for church-state separation. Second question had to do with
Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance. The Secular Coalition wrote a friend of the court letter for Michael Newdow's new case, which includes a different plaintiff, which is a person who does have custody over her child. Or the child, I think, is actually the plaintiff. It's interesting you should mention the Supreme Court punting, because when Newdow first brought the case, and he was the plaintiff because he has a daughter, it was the first time, and I mean, aside from being a lawyer, I've studied a lot of constitutional law as well, even after practicing. And it's the first time I've ever heard that someone who doesn't have custody of their own child doesn't have standing. My theory on this is that the US Supreme Court wanted to hold against Newdow. So they agreed to take the case. But after they read his briefs, and after they heard his oral argument, there was no way, especially for anyone who sat through those arguments, that they could reasonably or legitimately or even get away with holding against him. He's brilliant. His briefs were brilliant. He goes through all the history. It's spectacular. And so they had to punt, as you put it. They had to throw it out on some new grounds that had never been grounds before. Oh, you don't have custody of your daughter. So with the the last time I spoke to Michael Newdow, and as I said, we did a friend of the court letter about how this affects children and all. On the new case, the last time I spoke to Michael was just a week and a half ago in Sacramento. And he said he doesn't expect the US Supreme Court will ever take the new case. So it's currently in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and when they decided, that's about as far as it's going to go. And I think the Ninth Circuit will hold in his favor. They did before. But it'll only apply to the Ninth Circuit. So as far as trying that legislatively, that's a non-starter. That would go nowhere. We're going to take baby steps. Next year, we're going to try for a resolution commemorating the 200th year of Darwin. That's our. I mean, that's when it comes to proposing our own legislation. Let's put it this way: only one member of Congress is even willing to say they are one of us. There's a lot of years that will need to go by before Congress realizes how damaging it is to divide us up in the pledge based on religion.
My question relates to what you said about people, not applying their beliefs to other people, and how theists are actually able to, do that. But I mean, I've been reading a lot on the Prop 8 thing, because it's appalling to me how much yes on 8 lies there are out there. So I've been reading up, keeping up with it, listening to the radio ads, watching the ads, and they seem to think that religious freedom means the freedom to exercise their beliefs in the public realm. And so, I mean, how do you answer that? Because they say, oh, well, you have to give me my freedom of religion, and my religion says that my religion applies to everybody, and so I have to apply my rules to everybody.
Well, I don't know of any religious dogma that says that their religion has to apply to everyone in the civil government sense. I do know of religions that say they have to try to save everyone and bring everyone to their religious beliefs. However, unless there's some religion I don't know about, the bottom line is, if you're trying to convince someone to do that and they choose not to, then God punishes them by damning them to hell for eternity. You don't get to say, you have to believe this. Well, you can't get someone to believe something or even live by this. You don't get to do that. You can try to convince them, but you can't say it has to be a rule that you have to follow. I mean,